I just want to give you a heads up because this is not your average run-of-the-mill lesson. I'm going to teach you some advanced phrases for highly proficient speakers of English. And these phrases are even a little more challenging than the C2 level. They are a bit informal, but I think they are useful when it comes to everyday conversation. So if you are at your wit's end when it comes to building vocabulary, look no further. Now, I'm not going to drag my feet any longer, so let's go ahead and begin with the phrase that I just mentioned, to drag your feet. This means to do something slowly or not start it because you just don't want to do it. So let's say there's a deadline and you're working slowly. Your boss might say, "Why are you dragging your feet? We need to hurry." Or every year, "Yeah, we have to pay taxes. I'm always dragging my feet because I just don't want to start the process. I procrastinate, I put it off, I drag my feet." Even Morpheus knows this phrase. Now, it may often be used as a gerund if someone's giving you a command, like quit dragging your feet or stop dragging your feet. Or you may often use it in the continuous tense to talk about what's happening right now. He is dragging his feet, or she is dragging her feet. This is a phrase that I think you may certainly come across when watching a movie or TV show. See for yourself.
Moving, kid. Quit dragging your feet.
Mother, can't we?
Can it, Gordon? Stop dragging your feet.
Don't act like he's the only reason you've been dragging your feet to stay here.
He accidentally got it right, didn't he? You've been dragging your feet on the next OS so you can figure out what Apple's gonna need.
Now, I would like you to stop dragging your feet and subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your fluency goals. Let's continue with our next phrase, which is to go to bat for someone. It means to support someone when the person needs help. This phrase originated from baseball, the idea of simply substituting one batter for another to help out the team. It was slang, but now it's used more generally. And to show you that, here are some news headlines. Pharma-funded Republicans go to bat for drug industry as Medicare moves to negotiate prices. To help stop the killing of pets, we must go to bat for Chicago's abandoned animals. And Eagles' veterans go to bat for embattled head coach Nick Sirianni. Okay, anyway, I want to quickly talk about how to pronounce this phrase, and I want to focus on the word to, which has two different pronunciations. When stressed, it sounds like to. When unstressed, it may sound like it has that schwa sound, t. It's a much softer sound, but that's what I would use when I say the phrase to go to bat for someone. The other thing I want to point out is the flap T, which is specific to the American accent, and I am from the United States. But it occurs when the T comes between two vowel sounds. So it's going to sound like to go to bat for someone. Can you hear that flap T? Go to go to bat for someone. Just listen for it.
They wouldn't honor my coupon for 2 free streaks.
They wouldn't? Well, I'll go to bat for you, honey.
Obviously, I said by no means. Are you kidding me? I always go to bat for you.
Then we have the phrase run-of-the-mill. This means ordinary or not special or exciting in any way. And often you may use this adjective phrase as an attributive adjective. It's going to come before the noun. Perhaps you're talking about a run-of-the-mill coffee shop, or somebody gives a run-of-the-mill presentation. Or maybe we're talking about a run-of-the-mill lesson. But at the beginning, I told you that this is not your average run-of-the-mill lesson. And that's what I want to point out, is that you may use this adjective phrase with the negative to say that something is not ordinary. It is special and exciting. And yes, I do believe this is not your average run-of-the-mill lesson. When pronouncing this phrase, I want to point out that linking may occur. We can link the final consonant sound in run with the beginning vowel sound in of. And it's almost like we're moving that consonant sound over, so it sounds like run of the mill.
It's totally acceptable to be a everyday, run-of-the-mill, average worker.
Is that what you think Gordon does? Run-of-the-mill interviews?
Does the run-of-the-mill college experience include stripping you of your dignity?
Next is the phrase, to err on the side of caution. This means to be especially careful rather than taking a risk or making a mistake. So instead of saying, we should be careful, or we don't want to make a mistake, you could say, we should err on the side of caution. And I would recommend that you go ahead and hit the like button. I don't want you to forget, so let's err on the side of caution and go ahead and do that. For pronunciation, the only thing I want to point out is that first word. That ERR is pronounced as air or You may hear either one. In the US, I feel like most people are going to say air, but it can be a little tricky because the spelling and the pronunciation don't really match. To err on the side of caution. Once again, just listen for it.
If you're worried there's extra milk in the freezer.
Okay, yes, I will err on the side of caution and defrost a fresh batch.
I didn't care for the way that he handled it, so I'm going to have to err on the side of caution and say pass.
Why? It's the first rule in pain management. Always err on the side of caution.
Then we have the phrase pull strings. I like this one. It means to secretly use the influence you have over someone in order to help someone or get something that you want. Now, again, I should say it doesn't always have to be like you have a lot of influence over this person. It could just mean like maybe you're friends. Let's say that you want to go see a movie and it's sold out. And I tell you, hey, look, I know someone who works at the theater. Maybe I can pull some strings and get us some tickets. And I have not really influence, but I have a connection. I have a contact there, and I can pull some strings. One thing I want to point out with this phrase is that you're often going to use a determiner before the word strings, to pull some strings or to pull a few strings. If you don't believe me, listen for yourself.
What did you get me out of that? And pull some strings.
How'd you get in there?
A few calls, pulled some strings.
So what do you think? Pull a few strings, hook me up with some tickets.
I decided to pull a few strings, call in a few favors, and I've decided to make you official security supervisor of the branch.
Next is a phrasal verb, chime in. This means to add one's comment or opinion to a conversation or discussion that one has been listening to. And sometimes this is done by interrupting. I know when my wife is talking to someone else and I want to share my opinion, I may chime in. And yeah, it can be a little rude and annoying if someone chimes in. Or other times, someone may be asking for someone to share an opinion, and they may say, does anyone want to chime in? To give you some more examples as to how this phrasal verb is used in context, I have some more news headlines for you. Whoopi Goldberg chimes in on Barbie Oscar snub drama. A TikToker went viral with a tearful reaction to a Super Bowl party snub, and celebs chimed in. Snowflake's CEO says he values merit over diversity. VCs chimed in. When pronouncing this phrase, I just want to point out that more linking may occur, and we can link the final consonant sound in chime with the vowel sound in. Chime in. To chime in.
Chris, I'm not sure you have the green light to just chime in whenever.
Anyone, please, chime in.
Oh, take it easy, Vincent. This is not her fault.
Oh, look who decided to chime in.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Then we have the phrase, to cut someone some slack. This means to treat someone in a less harsh or critical way. So some examples, I will cut you some slack if you don't hit the like button. I know I told you to err on the side of caution and go ahead and do that, but if you don't, I will cut you some slack. I will cut you some slack if you don't join my email community. But I will not cut you any slack if you don't write to me in the comments. So I want to talk to you quickly about the difference between I will cut you some slack versus I will not cut you any slack. Remember that we're going to use some with affirmative statements and any with negative statements. One more thing I want to point out is that you may hear people use this with the verb give, to give someone some slack. However, as we can see using Ngram Viewer, it's overwhelmingly more common for people to use the verb cut, to cut someone some slack.
Young lady, this may be the high point of Bart's life. Cut him some slack.
Let's say you get a job, which you probably won't. They're not going to cut you any slack.
You're meant for a job with lots and lots of slack.
Then we have the phrase to one-up someone. I like this phrase even though it's not really a good thing to do. It means to get an advantage over someone by saying or doing something better or more extreme. So let me give you some examples, and I want you to think about who is trying to one-up the other. Next week, I'm going for a hike. Next week, I'm climbing Mount Everest. Last month, I met the star of the high school basketball team. Yeah, that's nice. I met Michael Jordan. I think I might buy a new car, maybe a Honda. I've been thinking about buying a new car as well, but probably a Ferrari. I think it's quite clear that person B is trying to one-up person A.
Every time I come up with a way to score with the ladies, there's Jimmy trying to one-up me.
I go to church too, and I have raffled and bingoed and bake saled my way as close to the good Lord as you. So do not try to one-up me, because I will one-up yours.
The next phrase is perfect. If you ever feel like you are so worried, confused, or annoyed, you just don't know what to do, you can say, I'm at my wit's end. Often people may use this phrase at home or at work. Parents might say this when they're frustrated with their kids, I'm at my wit's end. Or maybe at work, you just have too much going on. You can't handle it, and you tell your colleague, I'm at my wit's end, and I just don't know what to do. Most of the time, you will use this phrase to talk about yourself, your own frustration. Therefore, you're going to use the possessive adjective my. I'm at my wit's end. But you can use other possessive adjectives as well. His wit's end, her wit's end, your wit's end. And keep in mind when pronouncing this phrase, more linking may occur. We can link the final consonant sound in wits with the beginning vowel sound in N, wit's end. I'm at my wit's end.
I'm sorry. I'm at my wit's end. Sally, I think she may need private school.
If there's anybody who could understand what I'm going through, it's you. And to tell you the truth, I'm at my wit's end.
I'm really sorry about this. I'm just at my wit's end with these two.
Then we have to second guess. This means to criticize or question a decision after it has been made, and typically you say what's wrong with it. So let's say that you make a decision and then I am telling you like, well, why did you make this decision? What were you thinking? Did you consider this? In that case, I am second guessing your decision. So it really has a negative connotation. Keep in mind, this phrase may also be used with a reflexive pronoun when we're just not confident with the decision that we've made. If I said, well, why did I do this? That was a dumb mistake. What was I thinking? I am second guessing myself. I think everyone can relate to this, and I'm sure at some point in your life you have second guessed yourself. For pronunciation, I just want you to know that the final D in second may get muted because of elision. This is when sounds or syllables get removed. And this may occur with the T or D when they come between two consonants. Think about the phrases old car or next day. You don't really hear the T or D, nor do you hear it when I say second guess. To second guess someone.
Don't second guess yourself. You made the right call.
Cautious. Not cautious enough. I'm already second guessing myself, and that's the last thing a captain can afford.
Hey, I figured out on my first job when a little creative thinking on my part almost got me not paid. Never second guess a client.
Heads up. This is a phrase that I use all the time, and it's a warning that something is going to happen, usually so you can prepare for it. And I might use this, I'm out walking with my wife on the street and I see a bike coming down the sidewalk and I say, heads up. And she tells me, well, why don't you just say there's a bike coming down the sidewalk? And I tell her that's too long. You got to be concise, fast, efficient, heads up. Now I want you to know that this phrase is often used with the verb give, to give someone a heads up. It's a common collocation. So I will give you a heads up when the next vocabulary video comes out. I will also give you a heads up when I start my next speaking course, and I will give you a heads up when this lesson is getting ready to come to an end. When pronouncing this phrase, you guessed it, more linking may occur. We can link the final consonant sound in heads with the beginning vowel sound in up. Heads up. To give someone a heads up.
You just not freak out.
It's not my responsibility to care.
Heads up, heads up.
Hey, Steve. Wonderful. But before you fully commit, I should probably give you the heads up. My plan is very elaborate and you might get a little mad.
messy.
I'm in. It's the highest.
And then there's to foot the bill. This means to pay the bill for something, especially something expensive. Now, I want to clarify how you would use this phrase, because if you go out to an expensive restaurant with a group of people, you're not really going to say, well, who's going to foot the bill? But you may use it when talking about things that are a lot more expensive. Think about education or travel. I could say, my parents foot the bill for my college education. Go Buffs. Or if you are going to travel for work, I might ask you, is the company going to foot the bill for your trip? It's expensive. There are multiple things you may pay for, flights, hotels. Is the company going to foot the bill? The other thing I want to point out with this phrase, and you may have noticed it with the examples, is that you're really going to use this when talking about paying the bill for someone else. So my parents foot the bill for my education, or the company foot the bill for your business trip. So keep that in mind when using this phrase. Here are some other examples.
I'm sorry, Alex.
So much for attorney-client privilege.
Not when I'm footing the bill.
One call to the town, they'll declare that thing a hazard, and they'll rip it down themselves, and they'll foot you with the bill.
I'm renting a yacht, and I'm calling all our friends, and we're taking a yacht to Catalina, and you're coming. Yeah. And I'm footing the whole freaking bill. You know what?
Now for a little review. So I'm giving you a heads up that the lesson will end shortly. And I hope that you will cut me some slack, because I'm sure that you want to continue learning more useful phrases. But we've talked about quite a few already. I don't want to overwhelm you. Therefore, I decided to err on the side of caution, because I believe that's what good teachers do. And I certainly don't want to think that I'm your average run-of-the-mill teacher, but you can let me know down in the comments. Feel free to chime in with your thoughts. But if you would like to continue learning, watch another one of my video lessons. Make that decision. Don't second guess yourself. Continue watching and learning. So I'm going to stop dragging my feet and wrap things up. If you enjoyed the lesson and learned something new, please hit that like button. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.